This presentation is on the research plan, Race Betrayals for Murder. This presentation was created by Brianna Dale and Sadara Manuel. For data collection, we chose to analyze online news articles from major cities' local news networks. The specific crime we chose to analyze is murder. If the act was sexually motivated or premeditated, we mentioned that on the code sheet. We hope to find trends in the way mass media depicts individuals according to relationships between their race, specific crimes, and their nature. By analyzing major news networks in major cities, we open the scope for analysis to a more extensive and diverse sample size, according to the demographics and populations of the audiences. We chose to model Laura Headley's code sheet for WIBR 6 p.m. news stories because a majority of her variables and categories coincided with our topic and our future data collection areas. We will not copy her codebook exactly, but use it as a model for our own, adding and retracting various sections when necessary. For data collection, we chose to analyze headlines and stories. Headlines because they're the viewer's first interaction with the article, and stories because they contain the bulk of the content. In the codebook, questions such as headline details, the dominant subject of the headline and of the story, newscast attributes, and story components are asked. For data collection and entry, we chose to use websites with global online access. We would start by searching the city, followed by major local news stations, logging the city selection in location. Second, we would select the first search suggestion, logging the news network name. Once on the website, we would search for murder. Article selection is optional, however, it must meet the criteria. Next, we would log the headline name, then complete the headline analysis and anything that follows. Before data entry and collection, we must confirm that prerequisites are met. Data entry is then logged on a separate sheet of paper to be conjoined with the rest of the data later. All websites used possess unrestricted public access.
As a group, there was a common interest in the race portrayals utilized by news outlets in the media. We can't help but notice the simple differences in how news outlets create and present the top stories of the time. It is also hard to overlook how the news anchors and articles bring the news when it is specific to a person of a certain race. We decided that the stories and cases that we would look into would be murder cases due to the fact that they consume a majority of the news and are also the most interesting or eye-catching part of the news to most people. We sometimes see that the headlines to news articles can be misleading and somehow constantly make the minorities look like the one at fault, even when they're the victim. Other times we see that if the perpetrator of a crime is white, they will resort to discussing their previous background to account for the reason why they would take such actions. Basically to make it seem as though if they would have not had certain things happen to them in the past, they would not have committed the crime. This causes the audience to look at them with more sympathy and understanding and to have a less animosity and hope for their demise. To investigate this, we decided to develop a code book that analyzes the components of each outlet, this being online news articles as well as videos. We wanted to see if and how race affects the way the news outlets produce and present the stories. Will it give a simple and sympathetic overview of the situation when a victim is white? Will they use incriminating or misleading headlines when the subject is a minority? This is what we aim to research by examining and coding the murder cases.
By analyzing stories and their headlines, we can gather enough data to form a statistically significant conclusion of whether or not a relationship exists between race, crimes, and their nature and their portrayals in media.
To fulfill my role in this investigation, I chose 6 high-profile murder cases to research and analyze to enter into our codebook. The 6 high-profile murders I chose were cases that sparked outrage around the country due to their outcomes or the gruesome violence in the crime itself. I am responsible for finding both a video news reporting and an online news article that report the happenings of each murder case. In the future, these videos and articles will be used as references.
My contributions to the group will and have been creation of the codebook and all PowerPoint presentations that were then edited by the group, creation of the topic and reasoning, data and variable entry and review, also data entries 1 through 16 and 20 through 25. I will also keep record of all documents.
Using the codebooks, I record the components of each video and article. For example, this could be the presence of anchors in a studio or the anchors being on tape. It could also be the language and choice of words used in the reportings, or the types of photos they choose to use in representing the victims or the perpetrator. This could be family taking photos or even mugshots. After this is recorded, we will equate each component or the lack thereof to a value and into SPSS. As members of the group, we were each responsible for creating a research question and a hypothesis of our own, so that even though we are working as a group, we each have our own purpose that we aim to fulfill from the analyzation of the research and the results. After coding and entering data that we derive from the high-profile murder cases, we hope to find out whether there is a correlation between components used or not used in the news and the race of each main subject. The results we obtain from the SPSS coding will determine whether there are components present that show a greater significance than others. This will determine whether or not there are themes in the way that people of different races are portrayed in the media. The personal research question I created is as follows. How will the portrayals of victims and defendants differ? The personal research question I created is as follows. How will the portrayals of victims and defendants differ in each news outlet due to the components or lack thereof that are detailed in the code book? The hypothesis I created is as follows. Black individuals will be represented in a more incriminating or derogatory way when they are involved in a murder case.
This presentation is on the research plan, Race Betrayals for Murder. This presentation was created by Brianna Dell and Sadara Manuel.